woke up to the sound of clapping. At first, I thought maybe I'd dreamed it. Who claps at 9 in the morning unless you're at a graduation or you've just seen a raccoon steal an entire pizza? But nope, it was real. Loud, enthusiastic clapping echoing through the walls of our house. I blinked at the ceiling of my room. It was Sunday, the one day I'd planned to sleep until noon, wrapped in a cocoon of blankets, pretending the world didn't exist. Instead, I was listening to... was that singing? I sat up slowly, hair sticking in every direction, and tried to make sense of it. Someone was singing Happy Birthday. For one delirious, hopeful second, my heart jumped. Maybe this was it. Maybe my family had finally remembered. Sure, it had been 2 weeks since my actual birthday, but hey, better late than never, right? Maybe this was my surprise party. The dramatic, we didn't forget, we were just planning something huge reveal. I threw the blanket off, nearly tripping over my own socks, and rushed to the door. My feet hit the hallway floorboards, creaking in protest, and the sound got clearer. Laughter, balloons squeaking, the unmistakable hiss of helium. I was grinning before I even reached the stairs. And then I saw it. Balloons, blue, gold, silver, covering the living room like confetti had exploded. A 3-layer chocolate cake sat proudly in the center of the table with frosting so glossy it looked like it belonged on TV. Streamers hung from the ceiling fan. My mom was holding a camera, filming with the dedication of someone auditioning for a documentary. My dad clapped in rhythm, chanting along. My grandma was cackling in the corner, clapping so hard her rings jingled. And in the middle of it all stood my brother, Daniel, wearing a paper birthday crown like he was the king of suburbia. The singing was for him, not me. I froze halfway down the stairs, my heart dropping so hard I swear I could hear it hit the carpet. This wasn't a belated surprise party for me. This was his party, his glorious, over-the-top 3-layer cake balloon-flooded party. And my birthday? 2 weeks ago, they barely noticed. I remember it so clearly. I'd woken up, waiting for the Happy Birthday Harper chorus, waiting for a cake, a balloon, even a card. Do you know what I got? My dad asking me to pass the salt at dinner. That was it. My entire birthday boiled down to seasoning mashed potatoes. But now, here I was, standing in the shadow of a party so big it looked like someone had mistaken our house for Disneyland. For him. I wanted to be mature about it. Really, I did. I told myself, Harper, don't be dramatic. It's just a birthday. But then my mom leaned forward with the cake, candles glowing, and said in her sing-song voice, "Make a wish, Daniel." Oh, the rage. I watched him close his eyes, inhaling like he was about to change the fate of humanity with his wish. My family leaned in, all smiles, waiting for the magical moment, and I thought, nope, absolutely not. Not today, Satan. Before I knew it, my legs were moving. I stormed into the living room, pushed my way through the circle of family members, and leaned over the cake. With one dramatic puff, I blew out every single candle. All 17. Smoke curled up in the air like a mic drop. The room fell silent. Daniel's eyes shot open, his face frozen mid-wish. My mom gasped so loudly I thought she might swallow a streamer. My dad blinked like he'd lost signal on his internal TV. And Grandma Doris, she laughed so hard she nearly fell off her chair. "Guess it's Harper's birthday now," she hollered, slapping her knee. I smirked, brushing invisible dust off my pajama sleeve. I made a wish, I announced, voice sweet as frosting. I wished that maybe, just maybe, this family remembers I actually exist. The silence was thick. Daniel's mouth opened and closed like a confused goldfish. My mom looked horrified, clutching her pearls like I'd just confessed to murder. My dad scratched his head, clearly debating if sports commentary would get him out of this moment. Me? I grabbed the knife, sliced into the cake, and took the first piece. Chocolate. My favorite. How convenient. The taste was divine, rich, sweet, perfect, exactly the kind of cake I hadn't gotten 2 weeks ago. I chewed slowly, dramatically, making eye contact with Daniel the entire time. If this were a movie, the camera would have zoomed in on my smug face with violins playing in the background. Not bad, I said with a satisfied sigh. Almost worth the wait. My mom sputtered. Harper, that was Daniel's wish. His moment. Oh, I'm sorry, I replied, tilting my head. I thought birthdays were for children in this house. My mistake. Grandma Doris cackled again. She's got a point, Linda. Karen. She waved a wrinkled hand dismissively. You barely even bought the girl a cupcake last month. Let her have a bite. I grinned at her. Thanks, Nana. At least someone remembers I'm alive. Daniel groaned, pulling the crown off his head. You're so dramatic, Harper. Dramatic? I gasped, pressing my hand to my chest. I'm sorry. Whose birthday was completely ignored 2 weeks ago? Who didn't even get a balloon? Not even a pathetic, half-deflated one from the dollar store. My mom tried to shush me. It wasn't like that. Oh, it was exactly like that. Meanwhile, look at this. I waved at the balloons, the streamers, the 3-layer cake. It looks like you're trying to summon Mickey Mouse for him. Dad finally spoke, his voice unsure. Well, Daniel's still in high school. Birthdays feel bigger then, you know? I turned slowly, squinting at him. So let me get this straight. Because I'm 19, I'm not allowed cake? Do I have to file retirement papers first? Do you only celebrate milestones now, like taxes and mortgage payments? Grandma laughed so hard she wheezed. Daniel just glared at me, cheeks turning red. I took another bite of cake. Sweet, sweet. Victory. The rest of the party limped on awkwardly. My mom tried to restart the happy birthday song, but no one sang as loudly. Daniel sulked, stabbing at his slice of cake like it had personally offended him. Dad kept checking his phone, clearly hoping a football game would rescue him from the tension. But me? I sat there, savoring every bite, plotting, because this was just the beginning. If they thought stealing cake was petty, they hadn't seen anything yet. Because I wasn't just the forgotten child anymore. I was the main character. And trust me, I was about to make this the kind of birthday season no one in this family would ever forget.
You know how people always say birthdays are supposed to feel magical? Like some invisible spotlight follows you all day, and suddenly everyone remembers you're alive, maybe even important. Well, mine didn't feel magical. Mine felt like Good Tuesday. A boring, under-seasoned, flavorless Tuesday. I woke up that morning with cautious optimism. My 19th birthday. 19. An in-between age where you're not shiny new like 18, but not legally exciting like 21. Still, it mattered. It was my day. I expected, no, deserved, at least a balloon. Maybe 2 if my family was feeling generous. I rolled out of bed, checked my phone. No texts, no Instagram stories, not even one of those lazy HBD posts people throw up when they can't be bothered to type. Nothing. But I thought, okay, they're probably waiting until breakfast. Maybe Nam made pancakes. Spoiler, she didn't. I walked into the kitchen, and the smell of cookies hit me. My heart soared. Maybe, just maybe, she baked me birthday cookies. I could already see the Instagram post. Mom made me birthday cookies because she's the sweetest. But then I saw her. Mom was carefully wrapping up 24 chocolate chip cookies in a shiny tin. Oh, morning, Harper, she said, not even looking up. Don't touch these. They're for the neighbor. Mrs. Clark's son got into college. Isn't that wonderful? I stared at her. Uh-huh. Wonderful. Truly groundbreaking. So happy for the Clarks. She smiled. oblivious. Maybe you should apply to more schools, Harper. You never know. I was 19, not 5. I wasn't trying to get into college anymore. I was already halfway through community college courses. But sure, let's talk about their son's future on my birthday. Right. So, breakfast? Oh, there's cereal in the pantry. Of course there was. The fancy cookies were for the neighbors, and I got stale cornflakes. Dad was already at the table, glued to his phone, sports highlights blasting from the little speaker, him nodding like he was in a boardroom meeting with ESPN. "Morning, kiddo," he mumbled, eyes never leaving the screen. "Morning," I said, waiting for the words. They didn't come. "So, anything special today?" "Yep, big game tonight," he replied, finally sipping his coffee. I stared at him. He stared at his phone. Silence. That was it. Then Daniel waltzed in, yawning like royalty, hair sticking up, but still somehow looking like a shampoo commercial. "Morning, fam," he announced, grabbing the good cereal, the one with marshmallows that Mom always saved for him. "Morning, sweetheart," Mom said cheerfully, sliding him a plate of eggs. Actual cooked food for him. "Sleep well, champ?" Dad added. Not really. Stayed up late finishing my game," Daniel shrugged, already shoveling food into his mouth. I looked down at my sad cornflakes. "Cool. Real inspiring story, Daniel." He smirked. "Thanks, Harp." "Harp?" I scoffed. "What am I, a musical instrument now?" He just grinned with marshmallow teeth. No one said anything else. Not one word about my birthday. The whole day blurred into background noise. Classes, texting Jenna, my best friend, who at least remembered. "Happy birthday, loser," which, from Jenna, was basically Shakespeare-level affection. I smiled at my phone, clutching that tiny crumb of validation like it was a winning lottery ticket. When I got home, I told myself, maybe they were planning something for the evening. A surprise dinner, a cake hidden in the fridge, balloons tucked away in the closet. I clung to that hope like a lifeline. Dinner came, meatloaf, Dad's favorite. We sat around the table, everyone eating like it was any other night. My mom asked Daniel about school. Dad ranted about football. Grandma dozed in her chair, muttering about bingo. And me? Nothing. Finally, Dad looked up, squinting at me. "Hey, Harper, pass the salt, will you?" That was it. That was my entire birthday, a request to season his potatoes. I slid the salt shaker across the table, suppressing the urge to throw it instead. "Wow, thank you, Dad. What a thoughtful gift." He didn't even notice the sarcasm. When dinner ended, I trudged upstairs, collapsed on my bed, and stared at the ceiling. No cake, no card, no happy birthday, just meatloaf and salt duty. For a while, I let myself wallow. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe birthdays weren't such a big deal. But then I thought about Daniel, how every year the house practically exploded with balloons for him. Streamers, banners, family photos plastered online like he was America's sweetheart. And me? I got seasoning. I laughed bitterly. "Happy birthday, Harper! Here's a condiment." But something inside me hardened. If they could forget me this easily, I'd have to remind them, not with tears, not with begging, but with fireworks. Figurative ones. I grabbed my notebook and wrote one line in big, dramatic letters. "Next year, they'll never forget." I underlined it 3 times, sat back, smirked. Because if my family thought they could treat me like a background character, they were about to learn the hard way. I was the main character, and my season was just getting started.
So my family forgot my birthday, and I decided to make them regret it. Not with tears, not with yelling. Oh no, I went with something much better. Sarcasm-fueled chaos. And let me tell you, payback tastes way sweeter than stale cornflakes. That's how I'd start the trailer for my life right now, if anyone cared enough to make one. Spoiler, they don't. But whatever. I was in the starring role anyway, so I had to start acting like it. After my tragic, salt shaker-themed 19th birthday, I wasn't just sad anymore. I was motivated. Motivated in the petty, slightly dangerous way that makes you say things like, what if I replaced Daniel's body wash with maple syrup? And then actually consider doing it. Let me back up. The morning after my birthday, I woke up still waiting for someone, anyone, to suddenly shout, "Surprise! We didn't forget! Here's a cake shaped like a guitar because you used to want to play one in 4th grade!" But no, Mom was in the kitchen rearranging the fruit bowl like it was the centerpiece of the Louvre. Dad was yelling at the TV because his team lost again. Daniel was asleep until noon because apparently golden boys need their beauty rest. And me? I was Googling harmless but memorable revenge ideas like a total lunatic. The internet, God bless it, had no shortage of suggestions. Swap sugar with salt, hide the remote, tape an air horn under the chair. It was like Pinterest had teamed up with Satan, and I was scrolling through their joint scrapbook. I wasn't going to go nuclear. Not yet. I needed to warm up, ease myself into my villain era, like dipping a toe in a pool before cannonballing in. So I started small. Operation 1, the toothpaste switcheroo. I bought a travel-sized bottle of mayonnaise. Don't ask where, don't ask why the cashier gave me a weird look, and ever so delicately squeezed it into Daniel's nearly empty toothpaste tube. Then I rolled it up, set it back by the sink, and waited. That evening, I lurked in the hallway pretending to fold laundry while Daniel brushed his teeth. At first, silence, then a pause, then the sound of spitting, gagging, and the most glorious "what the?" echoing through the bathroom. I bit my lips so hard to keep from laughing, I nearly drew blood. "Who messed with my toothpaste?" Daniel roared, storming out like a furious toothpaste dragon, mouth still foaming with mayo. I looked up, feigning innocence. "What's wrong, Danny boy? Not minty fresh?" He glared at me, mayo dripping down his chin like some deranged cooking show contestant. "You're sick!" Mom rushed in, horrified. "Daniel, what happened?" "She put mayonnaise in my toothpaste." I gasped dramatically. "Daniel, how could you accuse me of something so creative? Honestly, I'm flattered you think I'm capable of such culinary innovation." Dad, barely looking up from his phone, muttered, "Probably serves you right for leaving your toothpaste tube half empty. Rookie mistake." Daniel stormed off to rinse, muttering threats under his breath. I considered Operation 1 a smashing success. But like all good masterminds, I knew one prank was never enough. Revenge, I discovered, was a series, a Netflix original with multiple seasons, and I was ready to pitch season 2. Operation 2, the sock sabotage. Now, Daniel has this weird attachment to socks. He collects them. Striped ones, ones with cartoon characters, even a pair with tiny tacos on them. It's his thing, like he's secretly auditioning for Sock Vogue. And he's territorial about them. God forbid you touch the Pikachu pair without signing a formal agreement. So one night, when everyone was asleep, I snuck into his drawer and carefully replaced every single sock with mismatched pairs.
polka dots with stripes, taco sock with plain black, one bright neon, one beige. It was chaos disguised as cotton. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table nursing my coffee as Daniel trudged in. He looked down at his feet, blinked. "Why are my socks different?" he muttered, tugging at them. Mom glanced up. "Maybe you grabbed the wrong ones." "I don't grab wrong socks, Mom. My sock game is flawless." I sipped my coffee, hiding my grin. Wow, tragic. Imagine losing your credibility in the sock community. He squinted at me. "You did this." I widened my eyes. "Daniel, if I had access to your sacred sock drawer, do you think I'd waste it on mismatching? I'd burn them, obviously." He stomped off, muttering again, and I knew perfection. Petty, beautiful perfection. By this point, Jenna, my best friend, the only person who remembered my birthday, was my unofficial partner in crime. When I told her about the toothpaste and socks, she practically spit her latte across the cafe table. "You're insane," she said, between wheezes. "But like, in a good way. You're finally leaning into your main character arc." "Exactly," I said proudly. "If my family won't notice me when I'm nice, they'll notice me when I'm unhinged." Jenna leaned back. "So what's next? Glitter bomb, shaving cream and shoes?" I smirked. "Oh, I have plans." Operation 3, the meatloaf masterpiece. Remember how my birthday dinner was meatloaf? Yeah, tragic. But opportunity comes disguised as ground beef. One evening, when Mom left the kitchen unattended, I grabbed the ketchup bottle and swapped it with strawberry jam. Then I watched. Dinner began. Everyone gathered around. Mom served thick slices of meatloaf, Daniel loaded his plate like he was competing in a buffet contest, and Dad poured himself another glass of soda. Daniel took the first bite, chewed, stopped. "This tastes weird," he said slowly. "Weird how?" "Sweet, like jam." Dad took a bite. "Huh, different, but not bad." Daniel gagged dramatically. "It's disgusting." I tilted my head, spooning some onto my plate. No, I kinda like it. It's like meat dessert. Very innovative, Mom. You should open a restaurant." "Meat dessert?" Daniel exploded. "It's ruined." Mom sniffed defensively. "Well, I thought it was fine." "Exactly," I said, savoring my triumph. "Fine dining." Daniel shook his plate away. I leaned back, smirking into my mashed potatoes. Another flawless victory. By now, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about art. I was an artist, and my canvas was my brother's suffering. But here's the thing. Every time I pulled off a prank, I expected my parents to notice me, to say, "Wow, Harper, you really outdid yourself." Or even just, "Harper, stop being insane, but hey, at least you're memorable." Instead, what? They barely blinked. They treated Daniel's outrage like background noise, the same way they treated my existence. That's when it hit me. Maybe pranks weren't enough. Maybe I needed something bigger. Something so unforgettable they'd never be able to erase me again. And oh, I had ideas. I leaned across the cafe table to Jenna, whispering like we were in a spy movie. "Next mission," I said, "I go public. I'm talking banners, balloons, maybe even a fake news headline." She raised an eyebrow. "You're not plotting world domination, are you?" "Not yet," I grinned, "but give me time." Because this wasn't just payback anymore. This was a campaign. And my family, they were about to experience it front row, whether they wanted to or not. There's a fine line between being petty and being legendary. I had tiptoed on that line for weeks.
Mayonnaise toothpaste, mismatched socks, jam-covered meatloaf, but now I was ready to cross it. No more small games. No more subtle chaos. If my family wasn't going to give me a spotlight, I was going to drag one into the living room and blind them with it. The idea hit me while I was scrolling TikTok at 2 a.m., half buried under a blanket burrito and eating discount cookies. Some girl had faked a birthday party for herself just to get her friends to notice her. She went all out. Balloons, fake presents, a cake she bought for herself, and the video had millions of views. I sat up straight, crumbs flying everywhere. That was it. That was the move. Operation Birthday Bombshell. The plan was simple. Throw my own belated birthday party right in the middle of my brother's orbit. Make it so big, so loud, so in your face that they'd have to acknowledge me, even if it killed them. Step 1. Supplies. Jenna was my partner in crime, of course. She showed up with a trunk full of decorations like she'd robbed a party store. Streamers, glittery banners, a suspicious number of balloons. "You sure about this?" she asked, hauling out a giant box labeled Confetti cannon in all caps. "Sure," I grinned, tugging at the tape. "This is gonna be my villain origin story and my redemption arc rolled into one." She snorted. "You sound insane." "I am insane. That's the point." Step 2. Timing. I wasn't just gonna throw a random party. No, that would be too easy. I had to make it impossible for them to ignore me, which meant doing it when they were all gathered, which meant, crashing one of Daniel's precious family dinner nights. Because if there's one thing the golden boy loved, it was being the center of attention, which made stealing his spotlight all the sweeter. Step 3. Execution. The night arrived. Mom made spaghetti, Dad was already yelling at the TV, Daniel was bragging about some new high score in his video game, and Grandma Doris was knitting something suspiciously shaped like a banana. It was a regular night in the Lane household, until I burst in. The door slammed open. I entered like a rock star, arms full of balloons, a sparkly tiara on my head, and a Bluetooth speaker blasting "Happy Birthday" in the cheesiest possible version. "Ladies and gentlemen," I shouted over the music, "welcome to the official, the exclusive, the absolutely unforgettable celebration of me. Confetti cannon, boom, glitter everywhere." Everyone froze. Mom dropped her fork, Dad actually looked up from his phone, Daniel's jaw hit the floor. Grandma Doris clapped once, then muttered, "Finally." "Harper," Mom gasped. "What is this?" I struck a pose, glitter raining down like a divine spotlight. "This, Mother, is the birthday party you forgot to throw me. You're welcome." Daniel sputtered. You can't just hijack dinner." "Can't I?" I smirked, plopping a store-bought cake onto the table with "Happy Belated Harper" written in pink frosting. "Look at that! Cake, balloons, glitter. Honestly, I'm just teaching you how it's done." Dad scratched his head, spaghetti sauce on his shirt. "Wait, was it your birthday?" 3 weeks ago, Dad. 3 weeks. He blinked. Thought I was forgetting something." Daniel groaned, pushing his plate away. "This is ridiculous." "Oh, I'm sorry," I said sweetly. "Did you think this was your night? My bad. Don't worry, Daniel. The spotlight will return to you in like 30 years when you're balding and reminiscing about high school." Jenna, who had snuck in with me, was already filming on her phone, cackling like a hyena. "This is gold," she whispered. The room descended into chaos. Mom tried to clean up glitter while scolding me. Dad actually ate some of the cake. Grandma started singing a completely off-key birthday song, making up half the words. And Daniel sulked, his perfect world crumbling under the weight of pink frosting. And me? I'd never felt more alive. For once, they were all looking at me, annoyed, shocked, maybe even impressed, but looking. Mission accomplished. But here's the thing about revenge. Once you taste it, you want more. The belated birthday bombshell was only the beginning, because if my family thought that was dramatic, they had no idea what was coming next.
You know that smug feeling you get when you've just pulled off the greatest stunt of your life? Like the world should give you a medal, or at least a standing ovation? That was me after Birthday Gate 2.0. I strutted into school the next day like Beyoncé on tour. Glitter still clinging to my hair, frosting stains on my hoodie, and zero regrets. Daniel, however, was plotting. I could see it in his eyes that night at dinner, those narrowed, calculating eyes of a man who had tasted humiliation and wasn't about to let it go. My cake had stolen his thunder, my confetti had rained on his spaghetti, and now he was scheming. And let me tell you, Daniel's scheming is about as dangerous as a toddler holding scissors. Messy, unpredictable, and likely to end in someone crying. Spoiler, that someone was almost me. It started small. The next morning, I woke up to find that every single app on my phone had been rearranged into folders labeled things like loser stuff and why are you like this? My Instagram was hidden under a folder called please stop. Classic Daniel, tech prankster wannabe. I confronted him in the kitchen. Cute, I said, holding up my phone. You think this will break me? Adorable. He smirked over his cereal. You should thank me. I organized your mess. You're welcome. Oh, honey, I leaned in sweetly. Revenge isn't a game you want to play with me. I invented this game. You're just a rookie with training wheels. Grandma cackled from the corner. Get him, Harper. Daniel rolled his eyes, but I saw the flicker of doubt. He knew I wasn't bluffing. So I struck. Operation 4, the shower serenade. I knew Daniel loved his long showers, 20 minutes minimum, blasting his epic playlist like he was headlining Coachella. So I snuck into the bathroom earlier that day, switched his regular shampoo with a bottle I'd refilled using neon green dish soap, and replaced his Bluetooth speaker's playlist with one of my own. That evening, the concert began. I waited by the door, barely containing my laughter as his voice echoed over the running water. Don't stop believing! Suddenly, baby shark, do 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 do. What the? The shower curtain ripped open, soap suds everywhere, Daniel screaming like a war victim. Who did this? He bellowed, slipping and nearly face planting. I knocked on the door innocently. Everything okay in there, Mariah Carey? You're dead! Worth it. But of course he didn't stop there. Daniel was a sore loser. The very next day, I opened my backpack at school only to unleash an avalanche of ping pong balls. Dozens of them. They clattered down the hallway like a biblical plague of plastic hail. Everyone turned. Everyone laughed. Nice purse, Harper. Daniel's text pinged on my phone seconds later. Touché. The war had officially escalated. For days, it was prank after prank. I loosened the cap on his water bottle. He drenched himself in front of his crush. He set all my alarms to go off at 3 a.m. I woke up ready to fight a ghost army. I filled his room with sticky nuts. He retaliated by hiding sardines in mine, which is, by the way, an act of terrorism, not comedy. Even Mom started to notice. What is going on with you two? She demanded one evening as Daniel and I glared at each other over the dinner table. Nothing, we said in unison. Grandma slurped her soup loudly. It's war, she whispered like a delighted villain. But here's the thing no one tells you about prank wars. Sometimes they backfire hard. Case in point, Operation 5, my magnum opus, my masterpiece. I decided to fake a giant banner outside the house that read, "Congrats, Daniel, on your hemorrhoids," in bold red letters. Immature? Absolutely. Effective? You bet. Except the wind picked up. The banner slipped, tangled, and by the time I managed to tape it back up, the neighbors were outside gawking. Mr. Johnson from across the street was doubled over laughing. Mrs. Clark was whispering into her phone. And then Mom pulled into the driveway. She stepped out, stared at the banner, then slowly turned to me. Harper Lane, she said, voice deadly calm. What is that? I froze, holding the tape like a guilty criminal. Modern art? Her glare could have melted steel. Daniel came running out, saw the banner, and went pale. What is wrong with you? I burst out laughing. I couldn't stop. The neighbors were chuckling, Daniel was fuming, Mom was seconds from grounding me for life, and Dad just took a picture and said, "This is going on the family Christmas card." Chaos. Pure, glorious chaos. But that night, as I collapsed into bed, sore from laughing, I realized something. As much as I loved the war, as much as I loved finally being noticed, there was still this weird ache inside me. Because deep down, all I wanted, pranks, glitter, chaos aside, was for them to remember me, to celebrate me the way they did Daniel. And I wasn't sure if even the world's funniest prank would ever give me that.
You know how people say it's all fun and games until someone gets hurt? Yeah, I used to roll my eyes at that. Like, please, nobody ever really gets hurt in prank wars. It's just water balloons, fake spiders, maybe some glitter-induced trauma. But apparently, they meant emotionally hurt. Because let me tell you, by the end of this week, I wasn't laughing anymore. It all started with the toothpaste. Daniel, in a stroke of what he thought was comedic genius, replaced my toothpaste with mayonnaise. Do you know the psychological damage that does to a person when you wake up groggy at 7 a.m. and suddenly your mouth tastes like potato salad? I gagged so hard I almost saw the afterlife. I stormed into the kitchen, hair in a frizzy halo, foam, well, mayo, dripping down my chin, and slammed the tube on the counter. "You think this is funny?" I shrieked. Daniel almost spit his cereal across the table, laughing. "Oh my God, your face! Priceless! Best one yet." Mom didn't even look up from her coffee. "If you two don't stop, I swear I'm sending you to separate boarding schools." Grandma, of course, was wheezing with laughter. "Mayonnaise toothpaste? That boy is a genius!" Traitor. I had no choice but to retaliate. Operation 6. Instant karma. I snuck into Daniel's closet and stitched his pant legs shut at the knees. Childish? Absolutely. Satisfying? Oh, you have no idea. The next morning, I sat at the breakfast table pretending to butter toast while Daniel hopped around like a deranged flamingo trying to figure out why his legs wouldn't fit through his jeans. "What did you do?" he shouted, flailing. I sipped my orange juice delicately. "Maybe your calves just doubled overnight?" Grandma actually fell out of her chair laughing. Dad high-fived me under the table. Mom pinched the bridge of her nose like she was seriously considering faking her own death to get away from us. But then Daniel went nuclear. See, Daniel was tired of playing small. He wanted a finale, something that would crush me once and for all. And like an idiot, I underestimated him. It was Friday night. Mom had planned this big family dinner at a nice Italian place to try and restore peace, because nothing says, "Let's stop fighting," like unlimited breadsticks. I was actually excited. Good food, maybe a chance to prove I wasn't a total menace. We walked in, the hostess led us to our table, and just as I sat down, it happened. Every single person in the restaurant turned to look at me. Why? Because Daniel had paid the singer, a literal violinist hired for romantic ambiance, to announce in front of the entire place, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we celebrate a very special occasion. Please join me in wishing Harper Lane a happy engagement." My engagement. The whole restaurant erupted into applause. Some lady even shouted, "She's too young!" I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me whole. "What?" I screeched, nearly knocking over my water. Daniel was red in the face from trying not to laugh. "Surprise!" Mom gasped so loud the waiter flinched. Dad started choking on his breadstick. Grandma stood up and waved like she was royalty. "That's my granddaughter, engaged at 14. I was mortified. The manager actually brought me a complimentary dessert with "Congrats, bride-to-be" written in chocolate syrup. I glared at Daniel across the table. My eyes said, "You're dead." His eyes said, "Worth it." That was the night I realized this had gone too far. Because when we got home and Mom grounded both of us indefinitely, something shifted. The house wasn't buzzing with laughter anymore. The pranks weren't just funny stories, they were exhausting. And later, lying in bed, I felt this pit in my stomach. For weeks, all I'd wanted was to be seen, to not be the forgotten sibling, the "oh right, Harper" afterthought. And yeah, the chaos had worked, everyone was looking at me now, but not in the way I wanted. They weren't proud, they weren't celebrating me, they were just waiting for the next disaster. It hit me hard. I thought about my birthday, me sitting alone with my sad, half-burnt cupcake, feeling invisible while everyone fussed over Daniel, and how desperate I'd been to make them remember me, to prove that I was worth the noise. But instead of earning their love, I'd turned our house into a war zone. And the truth, that didn't feel like winning. The next morning, Daniel cornered me in the hallway. For once, he wasn't smirking. "Hey, that maybe went too far last night." I stared at him. "You think?" He sighed. I don't know. You're always so good at making people laugh. I wanted to beat you at your own game." Something in my chest softened. Maybe he wasn't just a smug golden boy after all. Maybe he was insecure too. But before I could respond, Grandma yelled from the kitchen, "Are you two making up, or do I need to bring out the hose?" Classic. Daniel and I exchanged a look, the kind only siblings understand. A silent truce, maybe. For the first time in weeks, I smiled without plotting his destruction, because deep down, beneath all the chaos, I realized what I wanted wasn't to beat him, it was to belong, to matter. And maybe I already did. If you thought prank wars and fake engagements were dramatic, just wait until you meet wedding season in the Lane family, because apparently the only thing louder than my family fighting over me and Daniel was my Aunt Carol fighting over flower arrangements. It started innocently enough. Carol, queen of unnecessary drama, collector of cat figurines, self-proclaimed visionary, decided her daughter's wedding needed to be the event of the decade. And because our family is cursed with terrible boundaries, guess who got dragged into the planning committee? Yup, me, Harper Lane, professional chaos gremlin, amateur bridesmaid. Mom cornered me in the kitchen while I was trying to pour cereal in peace. "Harper, honey, your cousin Eliza wants you to help with the bachelorette games. You're so funny." Translation: we need someone to keep things lively, and since you already make a fool of yourself daily, why not weaponize it? I nearly choked on my Cheerios. Wait, me? Do I look like someone who screams maid of honor material? I don't even know how to fold a napkin into a swan. Daniel strolled in, smirking as usual. "Oh, this is gonna be good. Harper at a wedding? I'm bringing popcorn." I threw a spoon at him, missed, he ducked and stole my cereal. Typical. But here's the kicker. I couldn't say no. After weeks of prank wars, family dinners, and almost being disowned over confetti, I wanted to prove I wasn't just the household menace. Maybe if I nailed this wedding thing, they'd stop treating me like a walking disaster. So I said yes. Biggest mistake of my life. From day one, it was chaos. Aunt Carol had spreadsheets, binders, and a terrifying whistle she blew whenever someone disagreed with her vision. Cousin Eliza wanted something simple, but Carol wanted fireworks, live doves, and possibly a horse-drawn carriage. My job? Keep the vibes positive. Sure, because nothing screams positive vibes than Carol screaming at the florist for suggesting lilies instead of roses. But the real chaos hit during the rehearsal dinner. Picture this: a fancy banquet hall, waiters in tuxes, tables covered in glittering centerpieces. Everyone was dressed to the nines. And me? I was in a slightly wrinkled dress, trying to pretend I wasn't the same girl who once duct-taped Daniel's socks together. I thought I could be normal for one night. Just one. Then the slideshow happened. Carol had prepared a tribute slideshow for Eliza and her fiancé, but somehow, half the photos were replaced with my prank war highlights. Me covered in mayo foam from the toothpaste incident, me getting smacked in the face by a confetti cannon, Daniel tripping over his stitched-up pants. Slide after slide. The entire room was howling with laughter. Even the DJ had to take off his headphones to wipe his tears. And the cherry on top, the slideshow ended with a giant picture of me holding up the fake engagement cake, frosting smeared across my face, tiara crooked, middle of my birthday revenge. The caption? Congrats to Harper, the real main character. I wanted to melt into the floor. Carol was furious, Eliza was giggling uncontrollably, and Daniel was laughing so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. I grabbed the mic before anyone could say anything. My brain screamed, "Run!" But my mouth, oh no, it had other plans. Hi, everyone. I'd like to clarify. I am not engaged unless you count my committed relationship with Chaos. Thank you. The room erupted. And for the first time in forever, I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't the forgotten sibling or the afterthought or the girl who had to scream for attention. I was just me. Loud, awkward, funny me. And they were laughing with me, not at me. Later that night, Daniel found me outside by the fountain. For once, he wasn't teasing. You killed it in there. Like, actually killed it. People are going to be talking about that speech forever. I smirked. Guess I'm the main character now, huh? He rolled his eyes but smiled. Don't let it go to your head. But it already had. The wedding went off without a hitch. Well, except for the doves escaping into the catering tent, but that's another story. And me? I didn't need a fake birthday party or a prank war or a slideshow of disasters to be noticed anymore. Turns out, all I had to do was own my chaos. Because maybe being the family disaster isn't such a bad thing. After all, every great rom-com needs comic relief. And lucky for the Lanes, that's me.
The thing about weddings is they're supposed to be these fairy tale events. Flowers, vows, slow dances under twinkly lights. And yeah, Eliza's wedding had all that, but it also had me, which meant chaos was inevitable. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't my fault that the doves escaped and dive-bombed the dessert table, or that Grandma Doris got tipsy on champagne and tried to teach the best man how to drop it low, or that Daniel somehow ended up doing the worm across the dance floor in front of Eliza's in-laws. Okay, maybe the champagne thing was a little my fault. I might have encouraged Grandma. But come on, when an 82-year-old says hold my glass, you let her cook. The point is, it was perfect. Perfectly messy, perfectly loud, perfectly lame. And for the first time, I wasn't standing on the sidelines, waiting to be noticed. I was in the middle of it, laughing so hard my stomach hurt, dancing until my feet gave up, sneaking extra slices of cake with Jenna when no one was looking. At one point, Aunt Carol cornered me by the chocolate fountain. I braced for impact, fully expecting her to unleash her inner dragon. Instead, she surprised me. "You were funny tonight," she admitted, begrudgingly, like the words physically hurt her throat. "People loved you." I blinked. Wait, was that a compliment? She scowled. "Don't get used to it." Then she stomped off to yell at the caterer about the shrimp skewers. Progress. Even Daniel, my arch-nemesis/brother, wasn't unbearable. We danced, badly, during the last song. He kept trying to floss, I kept tripping over my dress, and somehow we didn't strangle each other. Small miracle. Later, when the night wound down and the newlyweds drove off in their glitter-covered car, my idea, you're welcome, I sat on the steps outside the venue with Grandma. She was barefoot, fanning herself with a napkin, pearls slightly crooked. "You did good, kid," she said, patting my hand. "You made this wedding unforgettable." I laughed. "Pretty sure the doves did that." She winked. "Nah, it was you. You got a gift. You make people laugh even when things go wrong, especially when things go wrong." And for once, I believed her. I'd spent so long thinking I needed a perfect birthday party or a spotlight or some dramatic stunt to prove I mattered. But the truth, I didn't need any of that. I just needed to be myself. Loud, sarcastic, ridiculous me. Turns out, that was enough all along. Back home, life went back to normal. Sort of. Mom still yelled when Daniel and I bickered. Dad still fell asleep in front of the TV. Grandma still knitted weird things. This week it was a hat shaped like a chicken. But there was a difference now. At dinner, Mom actually asked me about my day. Dad called me the funny one instead of the other one. Daniel still teased me, but there was this unspoken respect underneath it, like we'd survived battle together and come out the other side. And when my next birthday rolled around, let's just say there was cake, balloons, a very real slideshow, and my name in big glittery letters on the banner. Daniel even gave a speech. Harper's the loudest, most annoying, most chaotic person I know, but she's also the funniest, and honestly, life would be boring without her. So, happy birthday, sis. I pretended to gag, of course, but secretly, it meant everything. So yeah, my family may have forgotten me once, but they sure as heck won't forget me again. Not when I've got confetti cannons on standby. And that's how my forgotten birthday turned into chaos, confetti, and finally, being seen. From invisible sibling to chaos gremlin to main character.